This
what I wanted to
conference
do
will
was
now be recorded.
I wanted to talk about SAN architecture. This is the domain that I'm working in. Basically, in a nutshell, what SAN architecture is, you know how you store your data in the cloud and all, right? So that data is basically stored in a data center. And data centers have a lot of components inside them, like arrays, switches, and servers and all that. We'll come to what those are in the further slides. So it's a data center is basically, or the SAN architecture basically is an arrangement of all those components. Yeah, so we'll be talking about SAN architecture. Before we go into SAN architecture, we'll look at how it resulted in SAN architecture, or the evolution of the whole arrangement, let's say. Yeah. So key points. So some of the core elements that we will be looking at today is what is a data center, the core elements of a data center, and RAID. Will come to what RAID is, and evolution of storage architecture. And I'll give you a simple example of the current existing architecture of various companies. Now let's look at what a data center is. So it is a dedicated space in a building where a network of computers, servers, storage, and other components is present. Like I told you, a data center is basically, its main job is to hold all of your data inside it, right? So it will have storages. When I say storages, simply understand that these are just hard drives or solid state drives. You know, you have external hard drives with you also, right? Like 1 TB hard disk and all that. It's basically a collection of a lot of those in a single entity, right? That is a multiple of those together combine and make a data center. Okay, and these are basically used by large organizations like Google, Amazon, and the company I work at, Cerner. They also have their own data centers, actually multiple of them. So this is what a data center is.
Here's a result from search.
Yeah, sorry about that. Now, this is what a typical data center would look like. You see all these blue objects, right? This whole thing is called an array. We'll come to what that is also again. And fun fact is that a data center is maintained at a lower temperature all the time. Assume this is not possible. This is just a hypothetical situation, by the way. Assume the data center is in the middle of the desert, which is not possible. I'm just saying for, as an example. Assume it is in the middle of a desert. A data center will be such a facility where the inside will be so cold in order to keep the systems cooling inside. Okay, the systems should run 24/7. There should not be any time loss or data loss inside them. It is very crucial data that is stored inside a data center, right? So the temperature inside a data center is always maintained at a lower temperature compared to the outside. There are also data centers which are present in like very colder areas or locations. A natural environment also, such a natural environment would also help a data center, right? That's why. So these are the core elements of a data center. Right off the bat, three main elements of a data center are a client, a host and a server, and an array. Let's come to what a client is. Technically, client is not part of a data center, but I'm including it here because it is part of the whole system that make up the data center and the client and all the transactions included. Client is also a part of that system. So what is a client? A client is basically any of you guys or any company which is storing their data in some data center. Google Drive basically provides you with storage, right? You know where the storage is, where your data is being stored in a data center. So you are the client in this case, and the data center is held by or managed by Google. Simple, right? So that is the client. Now we'll come to LAN and WAN. LAN and WAN basically local area network and wide area network. These are connections basically. I'm sure you've heard of these things, right? A very basic example would be your internet LAN cable. That is a very basic example actually. This will be much more complex than that. Okay, the connections will be in a short scope of area and also a large scope of area, depending on LAN or WAN. Now next comes host or computer. So host, one more name is server. What is a server? Okay, I'll explain that. And a storage network. Basically, in order for transactions to happen, you need to be on a network. You need to be present in a network for these things to work. Okay, we'll come to that also again. First, I just want you to know what are the core elements of a data center, so that we can go by in detail with everything of these things. So next is storage array. These are the actual hard disks and SSDs. SSD stands for solid state drive. Okay, not much of a difference. An SSD is much faster than a HDD. That's it. Okay, that is basically a storage array. A collection of hard disks basically put together inside this rectangular object is called an array. It also holds controllers, servers, and all those. Now, client, a person or an organization accessing / using the end product. So in the, I gave you an example of the Google Cloud, right? The storage that you use, Google storage. So that is the end product, and you are the client using that. Okay, host / server. Okay, what is a server? A server, in simple terms, a server is a device whose sole purpose is to serve you something. Okay, it does one functionality, that's all, nothing else. That is a server. And an array. So according to the definition here, a storage array or a disk array is a storage system which contains multiple disk drives. If you can see in this slide, the graphical representation for storage array, you can see multiple small objects inside the array, right? Those are all disks basically, and that is what this definition also is saying. And it has concepts like RAID, deduplication, encryption, and virtualization. So RAID, will be studying about that in the further slides. And deduplication, as the name suggests, you don't want duplicate data inside a data center. So because managing a data center is so costly and so much effort is going behind it, you don't want duplicate data. You're just increasing your work and wasting space. So deduplication is also handled by an array. There won't be any duplicate data. Encryption. So I don't know if you guys know this. When you log into Facebook, right, and when you enter your password, even Facebook is not able to see what your password is. Okay, you know how that is possible? Because of encryption. They have their own encryption algorithm is written. So as soon as you create a password, that is encrypted into something else, so that something else which is not in a readable format. It will have like alphanumeric data, special characters, and everything, so that anyone who is still able to get their hands on the password will not be able to decipher what that is. Of course, in order to decipher that, there is decryption and all that. Let's not get into that. Now next comes virtualization. Yeah, simple. I'll explain what virtualization in very simple terms. You know how you can put two operating systems in a computer, right? That is the basic level of virtualization. Two operating systems are using the same resources. Your computer, there is only one resource. Hard disk is only one. Your RAM is also only one. You don't have two RAMs, right? Every physical component is only one, but there are two operating systems, and both of them are accessing your resources. They work as individual systems, right? That is what virtualization is. A single system acting like multiple systems, in simple terms or in layman terms, is called as virtualization. Now let's come to RAID. So RAID, what does RAID stand for? It stands for redundant array of independent disks. So we learn why the term redundant is used here. So it is a set of disk drives viewed by operating system as a single logical device. So your operating system, how it views the components is that it views it as a single logical device. So the RAID disks are also viewed as a single logical device. And data is distributed across physical drives of an array. That also we'll see what that means. Yeah, now RAID. The main reason behind using RAID is to store parity. Excuse me. So the use of a parity is that you can achieve data recoverability in case of a disk failure. Let's say there are a lot of hard disk you have, and you lose data inside that. If you have applied RAID on top of your disk, you can retrieve that data by some operations, first by some mathematical operations, by performing mathematical operations. So RAID just does not have one level, it has multiple levels. We'll look at what those levels are. So RAID 0. Now here I have written it as, it is based on data stripping. Okay, let's look at what these is. You can see there are two disks here on the left, and it says block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4 till block 8. Now let's say I have a data A and it is stored in block 1. Let's say I have a data A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, A is stored in block 1, B is stored in block 2, C in 3, D in 4, like that. You see how the data is being distributed. It is called stripping, basically. That is data stripping. This is done in RAID 0. What are the advantages of this? Read and write operations are very fast, because things cannot get very more simple than this, right? Writing data is easy, and reading data is also easy. There is a component called controller, okay, that takes care of all the tasks. The controller, what it does is, it looks at this, okay, oh, it's RAID 0. Okay, A should go here, B should go here, C should go here, D should go here. It will take care of all of that, and this is really fast. And this is used when performance is really a big priority, and space is also not wasted. You won't understand why I mean space is not wasted right away. If you see further levels of RAID, you'll understand what I mean by space is not wasted. And disadvantage, almost no redundancy. I'll come to that also. You won't understand that in RAID 0. When you see further RAID levels, you'll understand what I mean by no redundancy. This you can easily understand. Since the data is stripped between disk 1 and disk 2, right? A is here, B is on the other disk, C is on one disk, and D is on one disk. If you lose, let's say, disk 1, you don't have the whole data. Your whole data is completely lost, by the way. There is no point in having just one side of the data, right? This is RAID 0. I want you to remember the point of data stripping. What is data stripping? Because let's make this an interactive session, right? In further slides, I'll ask you, you'll only be able to tell what kind of functionality is applied to this. So in this case, data stripping is applied. What is stripping? We have a bunch of data. Each data, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A is stored in one place, B is stored in one place, C is stored in one place, and D is stored in one place. That is data stripping. Basically, you are separating it. Now let's look at RAID 1. This uses the concept of data mirroring. What is mirroring? Look at this diagram. It looks similar to RAID 0, but there is a difference here. Let's assume the same set of data, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now what is happening is, A is stored in block 1, B is stored in, again A is stored in block 1 in disk 2 also. So if A, B, C, D, E, F, G is stored in disk 1, it is also stored in disk 2 also. This is mirroring. Basically, you're duplicating data here on purpose. Okay, why we are doing it on purpose, we'll look at that also. I want you to remember this. In RAID 0, the concept was data stripping. In RAID 1, the concept is data mirroring. What is data mirroring? Data is copied and pasted in two different disks, same data. Disk 1 also contains the same data, and disk 2 also contains the same data. Advantages. Data can be recovered in case of a disk failure. So unlike in RAID 0, if you lose one disk, you cannot retrieve your data from just disk 2. But in this case, you can, because both disk 1 and disk 2 have the same data. Even if you lose disk 1, you still have disk 2. That is the advantage. This is basically redundancy. I told you, I'll tell you what redundancy is, right? This is what redundancy is. You are making two copies of the same data, and in case you lose one, you still have the other. This is redundancy. And redundancy is not just achieved in terms of duplication of data. There is one more method, that is parity, using parity. You'll see what that is also. And disadvantages: slow write performance. Because it's duplicating the data, it is doing it twice. It is completing the same task twice. So the write performances will be slow, but the read performance is fast actually. If you look at it one way, space is also wasted here, and cost per unit is very high. Since you are duplicating it, you will have to have another disk just for its copy. If you have a data A, you need to have a data A in another disk. So you are spending more. If you spend rupees 1 lakh on one disk, you are spending another lakh just for its copy. So that's how cost per unit memory is high. So this is RAID 1. Now let's look at RAID 4. So here also data stripping, just like RAID 0, is applied. If you look at disk 1, 2, 3, 4, data is stored like this: block A1, A2, A3, and if you see, there is something called block AP. So that is a parity. Why we are storing a parity and what is parity, I'll tell you. And let's look at the second row: block B1, B2, B3, and block P. There is another parity for the B blocks. In the same way, block C1, C2, C3, there is a parity for C block also, and there is a parity for D block also. Totally there are 4 disks, and in that, one entire dedicated disk, that is disk 4, is used for parity. Right? Basically what parity is that, let's say you have a bunch of data. Let's say you have 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. This is the data you have. Now what you do is you add 1 to it, the bit 1 to it. Now the data changes, right? It becomes something else. I'll explain it in this diagram only. Let's say, let's look at the first row. We have A1, A2, A3, and A parity. Now let's say we lost A2. Let's say we lost A2. What we should do now? We have lost the data. In order to reconstruct it, we'll use a parity. We'll look at the parity, and what we'll do is we will reconstruct the data on A2. Don't worry if you don't understand right now. I'll give you a proper example of data recovery using RAID in the further slides. Okay. Yeah, that's what this says. There is just remember this: data RAID 4 implements what? Stripping, data stripping, just like RAID 0. Okay. In this case, yeah, an entire disk is dedicated to a parity. This is basically RAID 4. Okay. Advantages of RAID 4: efficient cost redundancy in terms of cost per unit. What do I mean by that? Let's say data is lost. What you are doing is you are reconstructing that data using RAID. So you don't have to bring another disk, let's say, to store a copy of it. You are not duplicating data here at all, right? Let's say you lose a data, you don't have anything else. So right off the top of your head, what do you think? Okay, let me have a backup, right? But that is not done here, and still data recovery is achieved. How? With the help of parity. That's why efficiency is higher and cost is also reduced. Performance boost for read operations. Whenever, just remember this, whenever stripping is done and not mirroring or duplication of data is done, cost is reduced and performance is also higher. That is the advantage. Read operations are higher. Okay. Write is again slower because you have more disks now. Okay. And only one disk failure it can handle. What do I mean by one disk failure? Let's say I lose the whole of disk 3. It is fine because we still have the parity and we can reconstruct the whole data that is in disk 3. Now disadvantages: write operation is slow. Again, we have so many disks, write operation will take a lot of time. Another disadvantage here is, I told you, right, if we lose one of the first 3 disks, we can reconstruct it. But what if we lose the parity itself? So that is the disadvantage here. If we lose the parity itself, we cannot reconstruct the data again. It is lost forever. Data redundancy is lost, not the data. We still have the 3 disks. If we lose the parity, we can build the parity again, but until the time it is built again, data redundancy is lost. In simple terms, what is data redundancy is that if you have a data A, you'll have another copy of data A. That is redundancy. Basically, if you lose one, you have the other. That is it. Okay, that is RAID 4. Now RAID 5. Let's look at what this is. If you remember, in RAID 4, an entire disk, one single disk was used for parity. But in case of RAID 5, the parity is distributed. See, you can see here, block A1, A2, A3, AP, parity, just like RAID 4. Block B1, B2, and B parity is in third disk only. It is the parity is stored in a certain manner here, so that even if an entire disk is lost, with a parity is lost, you can still reconstruct it. In RAID 4, what was the case? If you lose the parity disk, that is it. You cannot do anything. But even if you lose any of the disks in RAID 5, you can still reconstruct because the parity is distributed. It is not in one single place. So that is one of the advantages of RAID 5. Eventually, I'll show you how data recovery is done using RAID 5. Okay, we'll keep it very simple. It will be very easy, I promise. Okay, advantages. So it has all the advantages of RAID 4. Here also data stripping is done, not mirroring. What is data stripping? Data is distributed, okay, separately distributed among all the blocks. Okay, that is stripping. Just remember this, guys, stripping and mirroring, because I'll ask you what both of them are in the further slides. You'll be able to answer them easily. And disadvantages: can only handle up to a single disk failure. In this case, if it loses disk 3, it's fine. It can still reconstruct the data. But if it loses disk 2 and disk 3, it cannot construct because we are losing 2 parities. And the remaining number of parities you have is only 2. With just 2 parities, you cannot rebuild the whole thing. So it can handle only one disk failure. That is RAID 5. Now let's look at RAID 6. Just like RAID 5, the parity is distributed, but if you observe, there is one more thing going on here. In block A, let's see, there is A1, A2, A3, A parity P and A parity Q. There are 2 parities for the same row, just like RAID 5, but instead of 1 parity, there are 2 parities. This can handle 2 disk failures. Okay, the same process, the same procedure is also applied to this. If you lose one disk, you can reconstruct that whole disk using the parity that is stored in other places. If the whole concept of parity and data recovery is confusing for you, we will explain that in a short while with an example, with a proper example. What are the advantages? Better data redundancy. As I said, if you don't have one thing, you have the copy of, you can reconstruct it using the parity, right? That's why you have better data redundancy here. As I told you, it can handle up to 2 failed drives. Let's say if you lose both disk 1 and disk 2, you can still get it back using the parity remaining in disk 3, 4, and 5. This is what, in a nutshell, this is what RAID 6 is. RAID 10. Nothing complex in this. It is basically a combination of RAID 1 and RAID 0. What was, can any one of you in the chat tell me what RAID 0 was? Just type it in the chat. I told you 2 concepts, right? Data stripping and data mirroring. So what was RAID 0? We learned it in a few slides before. And what was RAID 1? Can any one of you just type it in the chat, or can any one of you just say it out loud? Anything is fine. Okay. Yeah, I'll just continue, I guess. If you remember, RAID 0 was data stripping. Data was distributed, basically. That is happening here also. If you look at it, block 1 data is in disk 1 also. Exactly. Thank you, Shri. Good answer. RAID 0 is stripping. Good job. So what was RAID 1? RAID 0 is stripping. That is correct. What was RAID 1? There is only one more option left. Duplication of data, mirroring, basically. Yeah. So if you look at RAID 10, right, it is a combination of both stripping and mirroring. Yeah. So how this is achieved, I'll tell you. You have a bunch of data, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A is stored in disk 1 and disk 2. Mirroring is happening here, and the same thing is done in disk 3 and 4 also. The data is distributed as well as it is mirrored. After it is distributed, it is making a copy of it. So it is achieving both RAID 1 and RAID 0. That's why it's called as RAID 10. It's very simple here. So what are the advantages here? Very fast performance. As I told you, if you have stripping involved, the performance will be very fast. And redundancy and fault tolerance. What is fault tolerance again? If you lose one, you still have the other. So fault tolerance is there. Even if there is one fault, there is no problem. It can tolerate that. That is all it is. And cost per unit is unit memory is high since data is mirrored. Yeah, as I told you, if you are making 2 copies of the same thing, the cost will obviously be very high, right? So that is what is happening here also. Yeah. Now I'll just give you an example of RAID recovery, right? 1 minute. Assume you have this byte data, okay? The data is 1101 0 0. This is the data you have. How this is stored, I'll show you. In RAID 5, this is example for RAID 5. We'll use only 3 disks, okay? 1, 2, 3. Data stripping is done here, if you remember. So the first one is 1. 1 is stored here. We have another one right after that. It is stored here. This is disk 1, 2, and this is parity. Okay, the first one is stored here. The second one is stored here, and now it is 0. And we have 1 here that is stored here, and we have a 0 here that is stored here, and we have another 0 which is stored here. So distribution of data is happening here. This is data stripping, by the way. Now, how do we form a parity? You can use any logical tables. Have you guys heard of logical tables? AND gate, OR gate, XOR gate, all this. We'll use AND gate here. So in AND gate, both are same. So it is 1. So both are not same. This is 0. Right? Let's look at it again. We have 1 and 1. So both are same. We'll write a 1. Here 0 and 1, they are not the same. So the parity is 0 now. Now we have both of them are same in disk 1 and 2. So we'll write 1 here. Okay, now this is our parity. Okay, now we have everything we need. Let's assume we lost disk 2. Okay, how do we recover data from this? Now we have parity. What does parity say? The first one is 1. That means both of the data was the same. One in disk 1 we have 1, in disk 2 also we get 1, because the parity is saying that both of the data were same. In the second one, it is saying both of the data were not the same. So that means if we have 0, this will be 1. Now in this case, it is saying the third parity is saying, okay, both of the data were same. Here we have 0, so here also we get 0. So we just successfully reconstructed the data using parity. This is all what it is, right? So this is what data recovery using RAID 5 basically is. Any doubts in RAID concept, guys? You can just go ahead and ask me. Yeah, Rahul, thanks for the answer. I'm seeing it now. I'm sorry about that. Thanks for the answer. If you guys have any doubt, please go ahead and ask me now. Any doubt about RAID basically? Um, 5 seconds, I'll go ahead with the further slides. Yeah, okay. So I assume everyone has got the example. It's pretty simple, right? I've given you a very basic example using just 6 bits basically, and I've done a RAID 5 data recovery. You've seen, right? With using the parity, how we reconstructed the data, which was in disk 2. Now we'll go to the further slides. Now, evolution of a storage network. Right at the top of the bat, SAN did not exist. There was DAS, NAS, and then SAN. What is these are all basically arrangements of components, as I told you. Excuse me. An architecture is basically the arrangement of all the components inside a data center. So we'll look at what NAS is. Yeah. So DAS stands for direct attached storage. If you can see, if you remember, we talked about the components of a data center, right? That is server, storage, and the client. Those were the components. If you look at here, we have the components here. Those are also called as workstations. We have the server here. What is a server? I told you a server's job is basically to serve you a single purpose. I'll give you an example. Okay, take the example of your printer. You print something, right? There is an inbuilt server inside it, and its only job is to print. That's it. It cannot do anything else. That is a server. That is a printer server, basically. Simple as that. Another example of a server is web server. Now you type google.com, right? You open that website. What actually is happening behind the scenes is that you're doing a request and response protocol. Okay. Let's say when you type http/google.com, www.google.com, that is your request. It is going to the server, and the server figures out, oh, okay, he wants the Google website. And what it does is it goes to that domain, pulls the Google website, and sends that back to you. That is the response. Basically, this is what it is: request and response. You send a request, you get a response. This is handled by web servers. So there are different kinds of servers. Each has its own functionality, and a single functionality. They cannot do multiple functionalities. Okay. And data storage device. You looked at what an array was before, right? It has its own disks inside it. It is this huge enclosure, basically. Very simple. Okay, you have hard disks, right? It is a collection of all those hard disks in a single enclosure, in a metal object, inside a metal object. That is what an array is, and that is what is used here: data storage device. if you look at direct storage, direct attached storage, this storage device is directly attached to the server. Okay, what is the problem with that? I'll tell you. The problem with this is the connection here is happening through LAN, and there can be data traffic here. How data traffic? Let's say one of the workstation is asking for some data, and the rest of the workstations are also asking for some data. There are 3 servers here, and it retrieves all the data, and there is only one path, if you can see here, between the workstations and the server. So there will be some, in some times there will be data traffic in between them. Okay, that is the disadvantage of having a direct attached storage. We'll see how this gets better in further this one. The next one is NAS, network attached storage. What is this? If you can see, it is similar to DAS, except the storage is connected to a network instead of directly. If you remember, there was a direct connection. There was a direct connection to the server in NAS, in DAS, sorry. But in this case, there is no direct connection, right? There is no direct connection. It is going through a network, connecting to a switch, and the switch is handling everything. Now, this is the time to learn what a switch is, okay? I'll tell you what a switch is. This is not your normal switch you have in your houses and all that, okay? You don't, this is different. Some daily item you see similar to this is your adapter, okay? Where you connect a lot of your devices to it. Your TV is also connected to it. Your charger is also connected to it. Basically, your adapter which has a lot of sockets, right? That is a typical example of what a switch is. The switch handles all the connections basically. See, the workstations are connected to the switch, and you see these small black icons inside the switch, right? Those are all ports basically. You have your LAN ports, right? In the same way, these are all ports. And from each port, a connection goes to the server, the storage, and everything. Right? In the case of direct attached storage, what we had was the storage was directly connected to the servers. In the case of NAS, that is network attached storage, the storage is connected directly to the network, that is the switch. What do we have here? This is a dedicated storage for file serving applications. Okay, you remember the request and response phase, right? This is suitable for that kind of protocol. This is suitable for that kind of execution. And this connects to an existing LAN network. It does not need its own network. You don't have to set up an entire network just for it. This switch has its LAN cable, right? It'll just connect to that. And the third point, it says provides access to heterogeneous clients. What do you mean by heterogeneous clients? Different types of clients. One client is asking me for some data, means another client is asking me for some kind of data, right? 2 different clients. It can handle both of them. It gives access to both of those different kinds of clients. Purposely built for providing storage to file server applications. Like I told you, file server applications, you heard me saying the request and response phase, right? Web pages and all that. It is used in that kind of execution environment. Finally comes the SAN, storage area network. This is the current standard for huge organizations basically, right? If you look at it, the components are also still the same. We don't have much difference in the component, but there is a difference in the type of arrangement that is taking place in SAN. So let's look at what it is. Now at the top, we have clients. Basically, end users. We have 3 clients connected to something called the zone. Okay, I'll tell you what zone is in a moment. The other components are a switch. In the previous slide, I explained you what a switch is. So it is the same switch here also. And this is the server. Right on top of the switch is the server. And at the bottom, we have the storage devices. This is the general architecture of a SAN. Okay. Now, the advantage of this is that the storage devices, the server are all connected, and the clients all are connected to a single network. That is the switch. Okay. The switch handles all the transactions, routing, and all that, right? So the clients are also connected to this switch. Storage device is also connected to this switch, and the servers are also connected to this switch. What does that mean? Everything is in the same zone, right? Everything is inside one single zone. Every transaction goes through that single switch and happens. Unlike here, you will need to have multiple switches because there is no particular single zone here, if you look at it. But here, that is the case. So this is the zone. It makes transaction easier, and scalability is also achieved through this. Better graphical representation of what a zoning is. Zone 1, if you can see, when you make a request like you want the data A, let's say that A is stored in storage A. The request goes through server A and to the switch here, and then goes to this server. If you can see, storage A is connected to the switch and server is also connected to the switch. So that is one zone. B, server B, C, and D are connected to this switch. So they are all in one zone. When you see storage C, server F, E, and storage C are all in one zone because they are connected to this switch. This is basically zoning. Everything existing in a single connection, in a single zone, is called a zoning. That's it. What I said, that's it. The difference between SAN and NAS. Mission critical transaction based database application. So for example, in the company that I work, Cerner, our clients are basically hospitals, right? So we provide them access to our data centers also, infrastructure, where they store the information of patients, very critical informations, right? When a doctor is going into an operation, right, he'll be able to access all his data stored in our data centers, right? So very mission critical. Let's say he's going into an operation, he doesn't have the data, someone could lose their lives, right? It is that mission critical. Backup and restore, you can always scale this. I'll explain what backup and restore in the last slide. This presentation is almost done. Okay. Storage consolidation, business continuance. Only with SAN it is possible to have your business or data center running throughout the year without no downtime. Okay. With other architectures, this is not possible. And now next is server consolidation. What is consolidation? Everything is in one single place. They are not separated. Everything is one single place, so maintenance is easy, and the handling of those components is easy. Advantages: large heterogeneous block data transfer. I told you what heterogeneous is. Heterogeneous means different kinds. So different kinds of block data transfer is happening. If you remember in these slides, you have one block, right? That is a very huge data inside a disk. So SAN is capable of transactions where a whole block is sent to and fro. Okay, and reduces LAN traffic because the switch is used. There is no one single path. Everything goes through a switch, and switch can handle so many things, so many connections at once. So LAN traffic is reduced. And scalability, we can just add more things and need not bother about connecting both, because if you give one connection to the switch, everything is done. That is all you need to do. NAS, again, basically it's the opposite of SAN. There is not much scalability. If you are sharing like small blocks of data, then this is good. That time you use NAS. Okay. File sharing, basically it uses NFS and CIFS, network file system and common internet file system. Those are the protocols that it uses for file sharing. Your emails, that is one example. Your email, you do email, right? That uses NAS, basically file server applications. That uses file server applications. You see how just for sending emails there is a separate server for that. That's what servers are. Yeah, so guys, this is the last slide. I told you about the whole architecture, right? This is a SAN architecture. You have all these servers connected to the SAN switch, which in turn it's connected to the storage. So they are all in one zone. Now, this whole thing together is called one fabric. Okay, we call it as a fabric. If you can see here, it is called one fabric. And we have another one here in the bottom, in the top right, sorry. We have another fabric here. Why do we have two? In large companies, right, like Google, Amazon has their own cloud service, that is the AWS, Amazon Web Services. And as Cerner, we also have this. We have two data centers typically. All the data that is in Fabric 1 is also in Fabric 2. You see how much cost we are putting into this. Let me give you an example. Okay, an array costs like 75 lakhs. One single array costs like 75 lakhs, and some arrays cost like crores. One single array, that's it. Just one single array costs that much. So look at how much money we are putting into this, because data, if you lose data, you're gone, you lose clients. So to make sure a fabric is duplicated, all the data here in Fabric 1 is also in Fabric 2. But we need intercommunication, right? We have something called the backbone switch. The switches in Fabric 1 and Fabric 2 are connected to this backbone switch. Okay, all transactions are happening through this. So this is what a SAN architecture basically is. That's it, guys. If you guys have any doubt, please go ahead and ask me.
Wait for some time, sir. If they have any questions, they will ask.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. I don't think so they have any questions. They have understood your session. Okay, there's one question from Purna Pragya.
Okay, so is there any chances of backbone switch going down? So in this slide, I showed you just one backbone switch, just for representation purposes, but there will be multiple backbone switches. So even if one goes down, there will still be a lot of the other backbone switches still active. And in a data center, the chances of multiple disks going down is very, very less. Okay, so we keep that also in consideration when creating this architecture, basically. I hope I've cleared your doubt, Purna. Feedback form?
Yeah, feedback form I'll send at the end of the session. So yeah, Purna's question is clear, I think. So let's take it further. Thank you so much, Mr. Dixit, for the wonderful session. So on behalf of KLS Alice BCA, I would like to present word of thanks. Thank you so much once again, and thank you all the participants. Thank you one and all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for Kaylee for giving me this opportunity also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.